What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Week 9 NFL Power Rankings show. We are now over halfway through this very interesting, wild NFL season. Before we get into the power rankings this week, if you could do me a huge favor, please do hit that like button down below. It is a free and easy way to support my channel in a meaningful way. Really appreciate it. Also, we've got Studs and Duds, my player review series where we talk about the rising and falling players around the NFL, coming back this week, and we're going to be splitting it up into two videos, NFC on Thursday, AFC on Friday. So make sure you're subscribed up, got that little notification bell ticked so you can be here when those videos dropped. You're not going to want to miss it. But let's go ahead and get into the Week 9 NFL Power Rankings, starting at the bottom. The Houston Texans are going to hold on to that dead last place. I think I had them at about 65 yards of offense with 4 minutes to go in that game against Malik Willis's Titans. The offense is not getting any better. More importantly, Davis Mills is not getting any better. They end up with a garbage time touchdown to make it a one-score game with like 17 seconds to go. I think this was probably their worst performance on the season. This is the worst team in football. Don't think we're going to get too much debate on that. But there might be some debate here at 31, and I debated with myself. I think any number of these upcoming teams could be considered really at 31. So tough to pick someone, but it's got to be somebody, and I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers, which does hurt a little bit because I was tweeting about the Panthers and how this version of this team with PJ Walker and Steve Wilkes as a bit of a, Cinderella underdogs narrative. Very fun, interesting team here, and I'm going to continue to be interested to see if they can bounce back from what was a heartbreaking loss against the Falcons. But I also feel relatively confident that that might be the end of their magic, just from a locker room perspective. You fall to 2-6, and it's just going to be a lot for this team. We'll see how they respond, but I'm going to go with the Panthers at 31. And a part of this is my number 30 team, the Indianapolis Colts. I think did some good stuff this week. Now, I definitely think I was justified to drop them 14 spots last week or whatever it was when they made the decision to go to Sam Ehlinger. And Ehlinger certainly wasn't special, but I think he showed that he's not maybe going to be a train wreck, or at least he wasn't in his first appearance. And I also think the Colts defense did some nice stuff this week as well, getting that pass rush, maybe having their best game. So it's not all bad in Indianapolis, but we know with Ehlinger there and the direction that this team's kind of going right now, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL and certainly could have been chosen to stay at 31. Then at number 29, I have the Detroit Lions. I tweeted this, but I will reiterate here. Of all of the teams that make no sense this year, the Detroit Lions make the least amount of sense. And I think what it is they just can't get one side of the ball, or rather both sides of the ball, to show up within the same game. When the offense shows up, the defense is miserably bad, like worst in the NFL bad. And then they've had weeks where the offense looks atrocious as well. So they can't get this team to come out and fire on both sides of the ball within the same week. And that's just not a winning formula. So they're going to stay put at number 29, even though they competed their asses off against the Miami Dolphins this week and made it entertaining. Then number 28 is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just a toothless, well-coached football team who, honestly, it's like defensively, I think they're well coached. Ran into a mismatch against the Eagles this week. But I will say, I think offensively, they need a little bit more creativity. Matt Canada just hasn't really brought that to the table. I do see that, Steelers fans. So that's going to be on their list of necessary changes for the offseason, which is a lofty list at this point. So 28 for the Steelers, who I think I actually have a typo there in the graphic. I think it should be -2 for them. And then the Bears at 27, actually going to climb up a spot this week despite the big loss, giving up, 49 points against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I don't think that's going to be the norm for a Matt Eberflus defense. They've really been overachieving on that side of the ball, but it is tough when you don't have a lot of talent, and now they're trading away the talent that they did have, Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn. I don't disagree with getting picks, and, I have some opinions on paying and investing in linebackers that might differ from other people. Clearly, the Bears didn't really want to pay Roquan Smith $20 million, and I can't really argue with them on that. I don't think they're at that point in their build where that makes sense. Their career, their I guess, trajectory as an organization. But the reason they're going up one year is Justin Fields. Man, he has looked legit the last few weeks, and you gotta applaud his ability to get more comfortable as the season has gone on, avoid mistakes, and develop as the season has gone on. And I've liked what I've seen there. So he battled. They fought back against the team that's had the best defense in the NFL this year, and the Dallas Cowboys, and I think that's a positive takeaway for the Chicago Bears. But that does round out our bottom tier of bad teams in the NFL. And that takes us to our next tier of the potentially frisky tier. And that's going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have definitely been that. They've been frisky. Most of their games have been close. Some of their games they've been in control. And at times this year they've looked legitimately great. I think I had them as high as 10, 11 after the first 3-4 weeks of the year. But that magic has really disappeared. Ever since then, the positive growth and trajectory of Trevor Lawrence has taken a complete U-turn. Not sure what that's all about. The play calling has taken a U-turn, and the defense hasn't been as good. So just a complete fall off for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who looked like they were going places, and right now they can't really seem to muster any sort of momentum. So they're going to drop down 5 this week, finally kind of returning back to that bottom-ish group where we had them coming into the year. Then the Washington Commanders are going to move up 2. I'm not going to act like they've really impressed me. I do think defensively they've played much more disciplined these last couple of weeks. That was something that really hurt them early on. Taylor Heineke was not particularly good in this game until it really counted late in the fourth quarter. That's exactly what it looked like against Green Bay. He is a complete roller coaster at quarterback. A tough team to really know what to do with. They really pulled this one out of their ass against a Colts team going to Sam Ehlinger in his first start. So I'm not going to act like I was impressed by the Commanders, but hey, they climbed to 4-4. Maybe they can, get Jahan Dotson back into the lineup, Chase Young back into the lineup and compete for a wild card spot. And then the Falcons at 24, very similar to the Washington Commanders, where they won this week. They pulled one out of their ass late after they almost blew another lead. But, the offense continues to just find ways to move the ball. It was a big Damiere Byrd week. This run game continues to be pretty solid. Mariota just churning out yards through play action and with his feet. I respect it. They're doing what they can offensively. It's not a good defense, as we saw this week, so that continues to worry me. But hey, they're moving up 2 spots this week. They claim first place in the NFC South, whatever that's worth at this point in time. We'll see if they can hold on to it. I would bet against that, but we'll see. Again, we'll see where it goes. Okay, number 23, the New England Patriots. They do take care of business against the Jets, who are definitely reeling offensively right now. Patriots, a team that is going to be in a good situation where they can just try to not beat themselves and let the other team do just that. It was not a win where I walked away impressed by the Patriots. I mean, they've really kind of struggled to get Mac Jones back into the swing of things. It's a defense that doesn't really have a lot of star talent, so just hanging around this group of sort of middling / purgatory groupish teams, I guess. I don't know. Patriots are weird this year. And then number 22, the Las Vegas Raiders dropping to 2-5 this week, and I'm done. I'm done with this team, man. I have defended this team. I have overranked this team and gone at it with some of you in the comments, and you guys can take your W's, man. This is not a good football team. It starts, I think, with the offense and Derek Carr, who had an embarrassing performance this week for a team who had a must-win game against the Saints. Like, just straight up, he was horrible. Bad mistakes, offering nothing out of structure. Still can't believe Devontae Adams left to go play with him. He might not be there next year at this rate. So it starts with him. And then it's the coaching has not been particularly good here with Josh McDaniels. And the defense, the roster, I would say underperforming this year. At least we thought this could be a decent defense, and Chandler Jones is a complete non-factor. It's really Max Crosby and a whole lot of nothing on that defense. So this is not a good football team. They've had pretty good games against really good teams, so you can't write them off in any given matchup. But I don't see this team rallying and making the playoffs. Absolutely not. Then we got the Cleveland Browns at 21. Talk about rallying, just completely out-physicaling the Cincinnati Bengals, who were rolling coming into that Monday Night Football game that we just watched. The Browns have been all about trying to keep their season afloat until Deshaun Watson gets back. But this was an all-around impressive performance. I think that was the best their defense has played. And offensively, kind of sticking with what works. And Amari Cooper, I mean, this was the week of wide receivers that were acquired via trade. And Amari Cooper just topped it off with a cherry on top there on Monday Night Football. What a night. So good week for the Browns, climbing up one here. And if they can continue to play team football like that, because they've been a little bit Lions-esque, where they've had a hard time getting both sides of the ball to click into place like that in any given game. If they can continue to do that, I'll begin to believe in this Browns team a little bit more, especially as we get close to Deshaun Watson maybe coming back here. But now we're going to have a tier gap up into the frisky tier. And I've got the New York Jets at number 20. Caught some flack from Jets fans when I actually lowered them last week, ranking them below the Denver Broncos after they had just beaten the Broncos led by Brett Rippon. And the signs were there on the film. That's why you watch the games. Zach Wilson has not played well. It was ugly against the Broncos, and it was really capped off by a hideous performance by Zach Wilson against the Patriots this week. If he just takes care of the football and doesn't make atrocious mistakes, overthrows, and forcing the ball into triple coverage, they probably still win that game. But he's been a problem. Without Breece Hall and Elijah Vera Tucker, their run game isn't quite what it was. It's not the explosive run game, so that's a real problem. Their offense is a bit broken right now. I do still really like this defense, which does make them frisky, and I think Zach Wilson can maybe figure some stuff out, but it's becoming exponentially more difficult to believe in Zach Wilson, and it's entering kind of panic territory. It looked good for the first couple weeks, and it has completely fallen off. So that's a problem. Then the New Orleans Saints at 19. Another team that when you watch them, you could kind of tell that they were capable of a performance like this. The offense has legitimately been good with Andy Dalton. He got a lot of flack for the interceptions on Thursday night, and a couple of those weren't even really his fault. This offense is, again, legit good, and this defense, we know that this defense is capable of being much better than they've been. So it comes together this week. They're 3-5. They're right in the mix in the NFC South. I think that gives them a little bit of extra life here. The Saints got a heartbeat. Then the Arizona Cardinals at 18. A tough loss, like in Minnesota. The fumbled punt in the fourth quarter really put them in a tough spot, but they were competing and hanging in right there with the Vikings. I think the Cardinals have figured a lot of stuff out. The defense has shown some nice stuff over the last month. Kyler Murray playing much better football with DeAndre Hopkins in there. A couple of really ugly interceptions in this game as well from Kyler, so you don't like to see that. I'm not trying to sell you on the Arizona Cardinals necessarily. They're only coming up one spot here, and that's just because the Raiders are falling down. But I don't think this is a terrible football team either. Then the Denver Broncos are going to stay put at 17. I really think this is the right spot for them. People have said this is too high, and I kept saying, this defense is absolutely legit, and Russell Wilson is still capable of playing much better than he's played. And that's kind of how it played out this week against the Jags, where the defense kept them in that game, and Russ kind of woke up in the second half. Are they going to turn into this explosive offense and this dangerous playoff team? Probably not, but big win for the Broncos to kind of keep their season alive, I suppose. Then at number 16, the New York Giants. Going to drop down 2 this week, picking up a loss against the Seahawks. This is definitely not a team that can afford to fumble 2 punts. They just don't have the margin for error to do that. Daniel Jones, I do think, played his worst game of the season, so it's tough to see some of that stuff kind of come to fruition that we've been worried about with the Giants. But I still think this team, they were right in this game, and if they don't fumble those 2 punts, maybe they do find a way to squeeze out another tight win at the 1-yard line, just as they've been doing. I think 16 is almost the perfect spot for the New York Giants, honestly. And I've got a new analogy for them that I like even more for this week. We went with the short basketball player in pickup basketball last week. But when I watch the New York Giants, to me, they're actually like a chess master playing a game of chess with no headpieces, just a full team of pawns where they're just no margin for error, but kind of really strategic, and every little move kind of makes sense. It's throwing a screen on 3rd and long so that you can set up a field goal to tie it in the 4th quarter, or, just playing very careful football. That's who they've been this year. That's the analogy we're going with, and ranking 16 now as we head into the second half of the year. Okay, now we have a tier gap up to the NFL middle class. This group has been borderline impossible to rank and predict this season. This has been an area of the NFL that has made this a truly unique season, and I struggled and moved these guys around, and really, I think 10 to 15, especially as we'll see here, you're going to get some disagreement on the actual order of these teams. It's basically a coin toss. So at number 15, I am going to have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and a big part of this is Shaq Barrett is out for the year. He's probably their most impactful defensive player, just being that edge rusher, and I think their pass rush is going to be pretty marginal now moving forward. Shoyinka being a number 1 is far from great, so that's a big loss. Their secondary's been banged up, and this defense just it doesn't have that it factor about them that they've had in years past. And then offensively, they don't have an it factor. I don't think they're terrible offensively, but the receivers have taken a slight step back. The offensive line can't run block, and Tom Brady inversely is, or just as a result, I think has taken a slight step back. So 15, kind of an average football team. I would still pick them to win the NFC South and figure some stuff out. There's just too much talent still on that roster. But a strange season for the Bucs, where they just don't feel like a team that has a lot of superstar talent, whereas they kind of did feel that way coming in. Then at number 14, the LA Rams. I'm still very worried about that offensive line, man, and they get pretty much blown out by the Niners here. I do think they came out with a good game plan coming off the bye week against that division opponent. They came out with a good game plan, really got Stafford on the move, tried to hide that offensive line in the first half. But as those scripted plays wore out and the bye week preparation wore off, you saw the same issues. They couldn't protect, they couldn't hang in the pocket and get the ball downfield. Now, Allen Robinson gets more involved here. It's not all bad, but also this defense is just, it's not a well-balanced, great defense. They're fine, but I just don't look at the Rams as a really scary team right now, and they're going to move down 3 after another tough loss. And then at number 13, the Green Bay Packers actually going to move up 3 spots this week. It's almost more by default because the Raiders fallen off the face of the earth. I think the Bucs have looked worse. I think the Rams have looked worse. And I think anybody that really watched that game against the Bills, you probably walked out of that feeling better about the Packers than you have the last few weeks. They ran into a juggernaut in the Buffalo Bills. If there are moral victories, I think that was one. You have Aaron Rodgers played his best game with these receivers who also had their best game. That's encouraging. I think the offensive line has played much better with Newman out of the lineup. Took them long enough to discover that he was a huge liability for them. And Elton Jenkins not playing right tackle has been an upgrade for them as well. Defensively, still incredibly frustrating that Joe Barry is wasting the incredible talent on this roster where they're just kind of an average defense, whereas they should be a great defense. So is this a team that I can see winning a Super Bowl this year? No, absolutely not. But I think they are, building upon some stuff, correcting some stuff, heading in the right direction. Whereas I look at the Rams and the Bucs, all 3 of these teams are very similar, I think. I look at the Rams and the Bucs maybe heading in the opposite direction. So I think they're poised for a kind of bounce back win against Detroit this week, but they're going to have to go out and show that they can win a freaking football game, right? Then we have the LA Chargers at number 12 on bye this week, moving up because the Raiders suck. And the Tennessee Titans at 11, actually going to move down one because our number 10 team has been so impressive to me. The Titans are just kind of hanging around. I really am not impressed by that team, but they're incredibly well coached. They play super consistent physical football, and in this season, that's a recipe for success. Within the context of this season, they squeak by against the worst team in football this week, so they are going to come down just kind of by nature of another team, I think, looking better. And that team is the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I need to add a little bit of context here. I wanted to raise the Seahawks a little bit more last week than I did, but I was worried when I made this video that DK Metcalf was going to be missing significant time. He's out there this week and has another great game. And I do think Geno loves having DK Metcalf out there and plays with a little bit of extra confidence having him out there. So that's huge. And that's not to slight Geno, who's probably been the third best quarterback in the NFL this year. I mean, that's another huge reason I feel good enough to move the Seahawks up into the top 10. I mean, this is a legit offense at this point. And Geno Smith, I think we're all afraid that this is going to stop because it's just so incredible what he's doing. But you watch him on tape, he's making great decisions. He's getting through his progressions. It's not like this is all first read, clean pocket football. No, like he's been a surgeon out there. He leads the NFL in completion percentage, but he's throwing dimes deep down the field with incredible accuracy. To me, he's showing, dare I say, like borderline elite, at worst, great pocket presence. What is he not doing as a quarterback that would tell you that this is going to stop? It's so fun to see, man. And now it's like we're getting into maybe MVP conversations with Geno Smith. Like he's obviously going to have to continue this in the second half of the year. But this is wild. This is like Kurt Warner type of shit going on with Geno Smith, and I'm all about it. So the Seahawks are going to move up 10, and they've also kind of settled in defensively. They've found some pieces and guys like Ryan Neal and Uchenna Nwosu's having a great year. Michael Jackson. They found some kind of random pieces playing really tough football on the defensive side of the ball that have helped this team as well. So yeah, Seahawks climbing up 10, making themselves one of the most fun teams in the league this year. Then the Cincinnati Bengals are going to move down 5 spots. What a just gutless performance against the Browns. Just really folded over. The offensive line played terrible. Burrow felt like he didn't really have a whole lot of places to go with the football without Jamar Chase out there. And then the defense especially just getting steamrolled by the Cleveland Browns. So I want to say it was just one of those nights, but I also think there's something to be said about this offense without Jamar Chase not being quite as potent. I think -5 sounds about right for the Bengals, but you also don't want to forget that the last 2 weeks for the Bengals, this team has looked awesome. Really unfortunate loss of momentum here for the Bengals. Then the Miami Dolphins at number 8. They're going to move up a spot. Another week of explosive offense. This defense is just so banged up right now. You want to see them get some guys back healthy. And if this can return as like a top 10 defense, I might move them up a tier, but I am worried about that. But a really good bounce back week for Tua this week after not looking so good on primetime against the Steelers. Thought he played a much better game this week against that Lions defense. And Tyreek Hill kind of running away with Offensive Player of the Year right now. He is unbelievable. Check out my power rankings video from last week, by the way, where we ranked receivers and corners doing positional power rankings. I think you guys will like that if you didn't check it out. We had Tyreek Hill as my number 1 wide receiver, living up to that this week. And while we're plugging things, before we move up to this next tier, I just want to give you a quick reminder that if you're buying tickets to sporting events, concerts, do it on SeatGeek, the number 1 ticketing app out there, the best user interface, the best prices, the best customer support. And now you will get $20 off your first purchase and support my channel in the process by using promo code FranchiseGuy. That's promo code FranchiseGuy on SeatGeek. All right, let's get into our next tier here. And these, to me, are good teams. In a year where it's hard to know who's good, I look at these 4 teams in this tier, and like I said, I think they're good teams. Are they Super Bowl teams? I don't know. We'll see. But the Baltimore Ravens at number 7, To be clear, I would have had them at number 6 if not for a Rashad Bateman injury again. Guy has really struggled to stay healthy, and that's a concern. I love that they went and got Roquan Smith for a defense that's already really picking up the pace, so that's good. But I am worried about this offense. Mark Andrews got hurt last week as well. I don't know how serious that is. Love that Isaiah Likely's stepping up, but we did see this offense without Rashad Bateman struggle with some of these receivers, so it's a concern. But overall, the Ravens are playing really good football, coming off a tough win against the Bucs on a short week. Then the Vikings at number 6. Going to climb up a spot here this week. The line play has been a huge difference for the Vikings, and I think that's really starting to stand out these last couple of weeks. Zadarius Smith has been dominant. He's playing like a top edge rusher in the NFL. And this offensive line, really outside of the rookie guard, Ed Ingram, who has been atrocious. He's been a complete turnstile at right guard. Other than that weak link, all of the other pieces are actually playing pretty damn good football, especially those tackles. I mean, Christian Darrisaw has been awesome, man. And that's been huge for this team, protecting for Kirk and opening up the run game. So the line play being a bit of a strength for the Vikings is a new feel for this team, and it's showing. And I think it has been a big reason why you're seeing better consistency and a better ability to win these close games. So the Vikings coming up to number 6 at 6-1. Then the San Francisco 49ers at number 5. Definitely caught some flack after I bumped them up 6 spots after losing to the Chiefs. Another example of why you watch the film. I watched that Chiefs game and I said, hey, this offense actually looks pretty damn good. Kyle's calling a good game. Jimmy's not playing horrible, even if he's trying to turn the ball over once or twice a week. Just kind of getting the ball in the hands of these playmakers, and he's been able to do it downfield a little bit better this year. You get Christian McCaffrey getting his first start in this game. Debo didn't even play. I mean, this is at worst a good offense. And when things are really clicking, this is a great offense. And defensively, like I said, they're going to have better days ahead after they ran into just a complete buzzsaw against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes last week. So I'm glad I moved them up. I'm glad I backed this team. And they're going to move up another spot here, up to number 5 here heading into week 9. Then the Dallas Cowboys at number 4, moving up a spot, taking care of business against the Bears. Good to see this offense kind of reaching their potential this week with Dak Prescott in his second start since coming back from the injury. Tony Pollard, I mean, we've been saying it for years. He's the better back than Zeke Elliott. Zeke out in this game with an injury, and the run game has been dynamic with Tony Pollard. So they got to keep it that way, make Zeke a full go backup, because Tony Pollard, like, if you give him 20 carries a game, he feels like a guy that's going to break one or two of those runs off for a big explosive touchdown. So that's a difference maker for this team. Just make Zeke a short yardage backup. He only needs 5 carries a game, and he can be good in those situations. But this should be Tony Pollard's backfield for sure. Defense took a step back this week. I don't know how worried I am about that. I guess we'll monitor that moving forward. If the defense played a dominant game against the Bears, I probably have them in this cut above tier with the Philadelphia Eagles. But the Eagles are going to find themselves here in this tier all alone. I know it's feeling harder and harder to kind of keep them outside of that tier with the Chiefs and the Bills. And it's not that Hurts is playing poorly. It's far from that. He's playing great. But I just think the Chiefs and the Bills are still in a league of their own, just because of those quarterbacks and how many different ways they can make you wrong. I just don't think Hurts is on that level. It's much more about Mahomes and Allen and how amazing they've been this year than it is about the Eagles. But, I think the Eagles are absolutely worth celebrating. They're kind of steamrolling the NFC right now. They're still undefeated. I love how just well-rounded they are. They can just beat you in so many different ways, and they can put together great game plans based on your strengths and weaknesses. Just makes them so dynamic. And of course, AJ Brown, the title of this video here, what an acquisition. Only cost this team the 18th pick in the draft. Like, are you kidding me? Of course you had to pay him, but that doesn't even feel like it matters. This was like an MVP type of game from AJ Brown, just mossing dudes in double coverage. The dude's insane. So the Eagles are going to stay put at number 3. And then, as I mentioned, the Chiefs and the Bills still holding on in their own tier above. The Chiefs on bye this week, the Bills hanging on to that number one spot. I mean, it's just pretty crazy with the Bills. Like, even in a game where Allen does throw a couple of, frankly, boneheaded interceptions, I thought he was otherwise good in that game. But even in a game like that, they're still able to be carried by a defense that just, their pass defense is so good with that front four. They're getting Tre'Davious White back this week, which is even more scary. So, Bills are the best team in the league, and the Chiefs right behind them. It still feels like those two teams are heading for a collision course in January. So there we go. There's your Week 9 NFL Power Rankings. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I try to interact with you guys and listen to your feedback on where you think I'm right, where you think I'm wrong. Again, please do hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed up so you don't miss studs and duds this week. Above all, I just appreciate you for watching. Thank you, and we'll see you later. Peace out.